I'm Gabby's Jules. Grey skies over West London. Grey skies over Milan as well as they lose the Coppa Italia final. Well done to Bologna on that front. It's midweek. We're nearing the end when so many races will be decided. One thing that's not been decided yet, but could be by the time you listen to this, depending where you are in the world, is Real Madrid make Barcelona wait another 24 hours. Yeah. They incredible last minute improbable for the way it came about and for who scored it, not because in terms of Real Madrid being deserving winners, because they were. Barcelona could have been champions on the sofa, as we like to say. Instead, they're going to presumably, possibly, unless they lose to Espanyol, in which case it gets kicked down to the weekend, become champions on Thursday night. But let's focus on Madrid, because we're going to talk about that. We're also going to talk about, it's not news because we knew it was happening, but I thought the way that Carlo Ancelotti's announcement came about, or really the Brazilian FA's announcement came about, I thought that was interesting. Let's start with the game, though. 1 million people out. 1 million canteranos on there. Now, if this were Barcelona, we'd be like, oh, look, they found another guy from La Masia, chucked him in there, and it worked out. With Real Madrid, we're not accustomed to this.
No, not really. I mean, the bench was, for a club like Real Madrid, pretty incredible, because apart from Jesus Valero, who's played like 3 games, that was his second game this season. I think he played 3 games last season for Getafe, 4 games the season before. The guy never plays. The rest were only kids from the reserve team and the under-19s and all of that. And with the makeshift starting lineup, really, although you had experienced players there, it was a decent team still. They had to work really hard to get to this win. And as you said, one of the kids actually scored the winner and kissed the badge and everything, which was great to see. It's just not what we are used to from Real Madrid.
It's funny because obviously we think Xabi Alonso is going to take over. He's leaving Bayer Leverkusen. But that, if I was Real Madrid, if I was a marketing guy at Real Madrid, that celebration when Jacobo Ramon probably scores the goal by kind of like nipping his foot ahead of the defender in the 6 minute of injury time, then goes over to celebrate by the corner flag. If you look at the guys he's celebrating with, you're like, who are these people? Yeah. I mean, those aren't circumstances in which these aren't circumstances in which you expect Real Madrid to score goals. And so I would put that forward if I were a marketing guy around Madrid, which I'm most definitely not, and they don't need my help because they're so good at marketing themselves. I wonder if it's going to be part of the message with Xabi Alonso. Like, we can do this too, right? Statistically, Real Madrid produce an enormous amount of footballers. It's just most of them end up playing for other clubs. It's a little lift. Is there anything more to read into it other than the fact that Real Madrid showed up and they ran into a tremendous goalkeeper?
Yeah, I mean, they went behind. Again, it's not the first time. A great goal by Valiant. And then, they did well. We still lacked a lot of cohesion anyway. But the spirit seems to be there. They didn't give up. Mbappe scored again, 40 goals for the season now, 28 in the league. It's a tremendous achievement. We talked about it on Monday. There's a lot of things he could have done better through the season, of course, himself and collectively. But you can't take away all the goals that he scored. And on that front, it's obviously a very good season. But he scored a great goal. And then after that, you could feel the second goal would come. But he was still tough. And I'm not sure how many of those youngsters, from Ramon to the others on the bench, really would be good enough one day to play for this team.
Let's go back to the announcement on Monday. I think you and I disagree a little bit on this. I was not expecting at all Brazil to make the announcement. I always assumed in these situations, you normally you normally make that part of the negotiation, because Ancelotti's another year left of his contract to release who gets to announce it and how. I was just surprised that we got this tweet or different social media accounts from messages from Reginaldo Rodriguez, the head of the CBF, who says, oh, we're getting the greatest manager in the world is going to join the greatest team in the world, Brazil. Won anything since 2002, or haven't won a World Cup since 2002. And it was him making the announcement rather than Ancelotti, or more likely, which normally happens, Real Madrid saying like, oh, he's leaving us in the season. Thank you so much, Carletos, always be your home, blah, blah, blah. I don't think Real Madrid took that well, but you don't think it's that big a deal?
No, I mean, I don't know. They're negotiating with Xabi Alonso. Everybody's talking about Xabi Alonso taking over. We know he's going. I don't know why they would not take that well when it was just announced, because it was all done. Then Carlo talked about it on Tuesday in his press conference pre-Mallorca game. Very happily too. Like, it didn't strike me as something that we're not used to see, or that something that should not have happened. And again, we knew it was going to happen anyway. So, but good luck to him. I think it's not an easy job. I don't think he's the greatest of generation from Brazil. There will be a lot of players that he knows well, obviously. But yeah, and good luck to Xabi Alonso.
I think it's a huge thing, and I want to talk about some more on the Gab and Jules podcast. So let me lay out the reasons again why I think this is important and it's relevant. And I think it gives us a hint of where Real Madrid are now, and also where Brazil and Reginaldo Rodriguez is under, right? So there's this business with the investigation that could be reopened because of the signature that a handwriting expert says is fraudulent. The CBF has said there's nothing to see here, whatever. They have two huge, not huge in terms of qualifying for the World Cup, but huge psychologically, because it's a long time until their next game. They have two huge qualifiers coming up in early June. This negotiation, which I thought was actually going to be really easy. This goes back to obviously 2023. Carlo was open to going in 2023. I don't think I'm revealing any secrets here. It looked as if Real Madrid were going to let him go. In the end, it didn't happen, right? The first time around. This time around, you thought it's going to be pretty easy. They're knocked out of. He only has a year left on his contract. Knocked out of the Champions League. At that point, things accelerated. We're not going to win LaLiga, lose every Clásico. Everybody knows that they're ready to go. It should be easy. You're Real Madrid, you save yourself a year's salary. And even in terms of compensation, there shouldn't be an aspect to it. I think things turned out to be a lot more complicated than people think. I think a bunch of different people got involved in the negotiation. I think there was certainly some people in and around the Madrid press were peddling the line that it destabilized the team. I don't think Ancelotti would say that that's at all what destabilized the team. There's certainly other factors. And I think it's kind of like a power play. What is the biggest brand in football? Is it Brazil or is it Real Madrid? And I think there's a lot of ego involved here. And that's why the announcement came out. I think Ancelotti would have wanted to make the announcement himself. So he's got a lot of people to thank. He really has a deep bond with Real Madrid. And you hope it's not going to be a sign of things to come. That's all I'm warning about. He's bringing part of the gang back together. Paul Clement, who of course was his assistant at Real Madrid the first time around, will be joining him in Madrid. Davide Ancelotti may not. He's been linked with Rangers.
Yeah, he's on their shortlist. Yeah, and I think Como maybe in case Cesc Fabregas goes. I mean, there's a point where he has to go and do his own thing. He can't stay with his dad all the time, and he's good enough now, I think, to get a team somewhere. So that makes a lot of sense too.
How do we know though? Like, it's always tricky when you appoint a number two because you never quite know what they do. You're always going on second-hand reputation and stuff like that.
Yeah, although, I mean, I think some number twos want to stay number twos, other number twos want to become number one. You've got the opinion of players that count a lot, opinions of the managers they work with. So it's rare that it's your dad, but in this case, it's his dad. But, you know, Pep Guardiola used to talk so highly of Mikel Arteta, for example, or Enzo Maresca when they were his assistants. And I think that counts too. When you look for a manager, you ask so many people about so many people about so many potential candidate for your job, and so you listen to what those guys have to say. And players are certainly really praiseful of Davide Ancelotti, so I can see why somebody's ready to give him a chance. I don't know if he would be good enough for a Como, a Rangers, or other clubs, but certainly you could see why he would be tempted to give him a chance.
Yeah, I don't think he has anything to benefit from going to join the staff in Brazil. I don't think there's any upside. It's not going to help him improve as an assistant coach because you're only working every so often. All you're doing is just like scouting players. So I wouldn't be surprised if we do see him pop up somewhere. Maybe it will be Rangers. In terms of Brazil, the perception is that this is not a great generation. Since 2002, when they last won the World Cup, when I was pretty good, right? Ronaldo, Ronaldinho, Kaká, you know. This time around, it's, I think in terms of the stars and the manufactured, or not manufactured stars, right? This time around, you have the Ballon d'Or winner, or the supposed Ballon d'Or winner in Vinicius, who didn't actually win it. Is the rest of the squad, is it suited to a small, I guess what I mean is it suited for a short-term tournament? Because if you look at individual match winners, comes to Rafinha as well, and a shutdown goalkeeper potentially in Alisson, do you need much more than that?
I think so. I think they still need a number 9. I think defensively, outside of the goalkeeper, they struggle. They struggle for fullback. They struggle for creativity in midfield. Even you can look, I mean, for Carlo to bring back Casemiro to the squad, which is what he wants to do. I've already said that he relies a lot on Neymar's fitness to be back and be ready for the World Cup. It shows that if you have to count on those guys who haven't played for 2 years for the national team, one is injured, seems to be injured for 2 years. The other one, maybe he's a little bit better now United, but for a long time this season, he was not even featuring. It shows the lack of quality, I guess, and talent and leadership, maybe even in the team. So there's a lot of work for him to do. I think the pragmatic side of Ancelotti is probably good for international football to some extent. But on the other hand, he's such a man management guy that he needs to be there with the players every day. And that's not going to be the same. And I'm not sure how well he would be with that,
It's a good point. I mean, I think people have talked about the pragmatism and, the fact that he is a player's coach first and foremost. But he's not going to have that contact.
Yeah.
As far as the Neymar Casemiro stuff is concerned, I don't
if it's true, I don't know if it's true, but yeah, we reported it on ESPN.
Right. What my understanding of this is that he's obviously not going to say no to Neymar, right? Neymar's dad, who by the way tried to get involved in this negotiation, what's he going to say? Oh no, I never want Neymar. I don't want to see the guy, right? But he's certainly not planning a future around Neymar. Casemiro's a little different in the sense that I think he looks at this, or my understanding is that he looks at this as the fact that, as you said, Casemiro's been doing a little better for Manchester United. We have no idea. The World Cup is what, a year away? We have no idea what Casemiro's next 12 months are going to be like. Where's he going to go? Yeah. What intensity of football is he going to play? Now, if Manchester United go in the Champions League and then all of a sudden Ruben Amorim's light bulb goes off and says, I'm going to build the whole team around Casemiro, and Casemiro plays 60 games or whatever, you probably don't bring him back. But if it's a case where Casemiro stays fit, if he stays at United, or if he goes somewhere else where maybe the football is less intense, if he goes into a World Cup fit, I think he would have a lot of trust in him for that specific role. Doesn't mean he's definitely going to start because he has other options, Bruno and whatnot. But I think he's keeping the door open there. I think he's also he's big. He was really impressed with Julien, the former defender, who is now, I think he's like I don't know what is exactly, but I think maybe it's technical support or something for the Brazilian FA. And they're going to discuss because I think on Sunday they have to release the call-ups for the 2 games in June. So obviously, Carlo's not going to go via YouTube because he's still focused on Real Madrid and until this is over. So they're going to guide him. He's got a really strong relationship, and he was really impressed with them. And he's going to assess and see where we are. But I don't know. World Cup is 7 games, Jules.
Yeah, that's true.
As we know,
a bit more this time, but yeah.
Stranger things have happened.